This is part two of the overview of special education. Again, my name is Dr. George Giuliani from Hofstra University, and we're continuing on after discussing our definition of special education, and we now go to our next term that you need to understand, and that's the term exceptional. Now, in special education, we often refer to a student as an exceptional child. As a matter of fact, many textbooks that you have on introduction to special education are called the exceptional child. Now, exceptional is a word that we use in everyday language, but often we use it simply to refer to something of greatness, in a sense. Like that was an exceptional goal the person scored, or you got an exceptional test grade. But that's not what the term actually means. When we talk about exceptional, what we're talking about is a term describing any individual whose physical, mental, or behavioral performance deviates so substantially from the average, whether higher or lower, that additional support is required to meet the individual's needs. Now, let me explain. When we talk about a child being an exceptional child in reference to special education, we're talking about a performance that deviates from the norm. It deviates so substantially from the norm that the child is going to need additional support. So, for example, if we have a fifth grade child who's reading at the first grade level, that would be considered an exceptional child because that child's performance deviates so substantially in reading from the average that additional support is going to be required to meet that person's needs. So when we think of exceptionality, we're talking about deviation from the norm. Anytime a child deviates from the norm so substantially that additional support is required, we refer to that as the exceptional child. Now, under the federal law, there are disability classifications. In a sense, we classify children with exceptionalities. And a classification is simply a label assigned to individuals who share common characteristics and features. We classify ourselves as freshmen, sophomore, juniors, or seniors. We classify ourselves as Republicans, Democrats, or independents. We classify ourselves all the time. We categorize things. And under our federal law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, or IDEA, there are 13 different classifications of disabilities that a child can be classified under, either one or more of them. And those classifications are as follows, and I'll go in alphabetical order: autism, deaf-blindness, developmental delay, emotional disturbance, hearing impairment, which includes deafness, intellectual disabilities, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairments, other health impairments, specific learning disabilities, speech and language impairments, traumatic brain injury, and visual impairments. Those are the 13 categories of disabilities, or the 13 classifications of disabilities under IDEA. And every single child receiving special education services in the United States will have on his or her IEP a classification, and it will be one or more of the ones in front of you on the PowerPoint, those 13. Now, make note of one of these classifications, and that is intellectual disabilities. Intellectual disabilities is the term that is now used instead of mental retardation. Intellectual disabilities is a new term under IDEA. Until October of 2010, the law used the term mental retardation. We no longer talk about the child with mental retardation. We talk about the child with intellectual disabilities. And in October of 2010, Rose's Law was signed into law by President Barack Obama. And Rose's Law changed the term to be used in the future to an intellectual disability and intellectual disabilities. So the definition of mental retardation, the prior definition under mental retardation, did not change, but the language has changed. So we don't talk about the child with mental retardation anymore. We talk about a child with intellectual disabilities. Now, how can you remember the 13 different disability classifications under IDEA, the 13 disability classifications? Well, I've created a little mnemonic device for you, and that is the mom loves dad. The mom loves dad. And if you look on the slides, you'll see the with T for traumatic brain injury, H for hearing impairment, E for emotional disturbance, M for mental retardation. But remember, mental retardation is not the term to use. So on an exam, don't tell me mental retardation. Tell me intellectual disabilities. It's just a reminder for you. O for orthopedic impairment, M for multiple disabilities. There's the mom. L for learning disabilities. O for other health impairment. V for visual impairment. S for speech and language impairment. There's the loves. And DAD for developmental delay, autism, and deaf blindness. So the 13 different disability classifications under IDEA can be remembered by the mom loves dad. Now, one thing to note from our disability classifications, you'll notice that under IDEA 2004, gifted and talented is not one of the classifications. However, gifted and talented children are clearly exceptional children. Those children definitely deviate from the norm. The child who is in the 4th grade who reads at an 8th grade level is clearly the exceptional child. The child who is gifted and talented, however, is not eligible for special education services under IDEA 2004 for the gifted and talentedness. And why not? Well, the answer is you have to go back to our original definition of special education. What did we say our definition of special education was? Specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. With a disability. Remember, you have to have a disability to receive special education and related services. Being gifted is not a disability. So although the child is exceptional who is gifted, it's not a disability. Now, please understand, gifted children can receive special education if they have other disabilities. For example, if you're a gifted child and you have a learning disability, you can receive special education for the learning disability, but not for the giftedness. If you're the gifted child, but you also have an orthopedic impairment, you can receive special education for the orthopedic issues that you have, but not for the giftedness regarding it. Okay, we'll stop here on this slide. This ends part 2 of the overview of special education.